Hey YouTube, how you doing? This is Low Power. Just want to do a video, a basketball video, and this basketball video basically gonna be about Wilt Chamberlain. How dominant will Wilt Chamberlain be in these times, and also what other players might would have done in his era. Well, when it comes to Wilt Chamberlain, what I like to do when I compare now, what I think is a good technique or a good way of thinking when it comes to these different players in different eras. What I like to do is look at similar players. I like to look at so like let's take like Michael Jordan. You know, people want to say, well, Mike this, Mike that, how good would he be back then? Well, I look at a similar player, the player that's closest to him. Elgin Baylor was the closest player to him back in his time. He was athletic, and he could hit shots from anywhere on the court. Michael Jordan could hit shots from anywhere on the court. He's faster than Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor was athletic, but Michael Jordan is even more athletic than him. So for me, just looking at how dominant Elgin Baylor was, I would have to say, well, he was dominant. Michael Jordan would be even better. So Michael Jordan would be easily the best player at that time. I ain't gonna say easily. He would be better than Oscar. He would be better than Elgin Baylor. You know, with Oscar, I look at Oscar Robertson. He may be the one guy that may have been more fundamentally sound than Michael Jordan on the offensive end of the court. But Mike is a better defensive player. Both of them are big and strong guards, but Mike is faster and way more athletic. So that's why I think Mike would be better than Oscar Robertson. But we gonna talk about Wilt Chamberlain. Now, think about Wilt Chamberlain. You look at how dominant he was. It was off the charts. It was ridiculous. But let's look at the reasons. One, we see that at that time the players were smaller on average, a lot smaller. Two, one thing that jumps out at you when you watch tape, defensive intensity was almost non-existent. And what I see when I see the defense intensity of that day, I compare it to what I saw like when you see teams that don't play defense today. That was normal because of the emphasis that's put on scoring in basketball. The game has not changed. It has changed a lot, but it hasn't changed that much. When you concentrate on offense, usually your defense suffers unless you have great defensive players. Look at the Phoenix Suns. You know, they cried all year about, you know, they didn't, you know, they just focus on offense. You see what happens. Their defense sucks. So that's what you see. No defensive intensity. So you have that, and plus he took a whole lot of shots. He never came out of game, which is a testament to his stamina. But at the same time, you also hear about things where he played like Bill Russell. Bill Russell had him shut down in the third quarter. They'd Boston be up by 20. Bill Russell go out the game. Wilt Chamberlain keeps on playing. He would never come out of the game, even if they getting blown out. So some of his stats are padded in that way, but still, he still did it. But at the same time, let's look at Wilt Chamberlain. He was 7'2", about between 270 and 300 pounds throughout his career. He was very athletic. He was very strong. And he was very skilled. He was more skilled than people give him credit for. He's a very skilled player. So when I look at him, I take him and I put him in today's day. I look at a player that's similar to him physically, and Shaquille O'Neal being a big, strong guy who could jump out the gym. You know, right now he can't jump out the gym anymore, but he used to be able to jump out the gym. And he was fast. But Shaq is bigger. You hear all these myths about how strong Wilt Chamberlain was. I believe he was very, very strong. I think he might have got stronger when he retired. When people always talk about how strong he was at 40 and stuff, you could get stronger as you get older. You know, men, we put on more muscle mass as we get older. So I don't necessarily think he was stronger than Shaq, but let's say like they were equal in strength. But Wilt was faster than Shaq, and he could jump a little higher than Shaq. So just seeing how dominant Shaq is, I think Shaq, very smart basketball player. Just looking at that, just comparing those two, just looking at how physically, Wilt Chamberlain had such a big advantage back in those days, but even today, he would still physically have a huge advantage over any other player in the league. He will still physically be the top player. Him and Shaq would be like this. They'd be like this. He'd be a little bit above, because really Chamberlain is more David Robinson, young David Robinson, than he is Shaq. Young David Robinson was like a small forward and a big man, a 7-footer's body. He could run up and down the court. He was fast, he could run, he could move well without the ball, all those things, he was actually probably the fastest center to play the game, David Robinson. People say Olajuwon wasn't faster than David Robinson. He was just craftier. He had a lot of speed with craftiness, which made David Robinson look bad. Looked like he was slower than Olajuwon, but David Robinson actually in the foot race, I think, would beat Olajuwon. Very fast. So I look at that and I say, Wilt Chamberlain would still dominate today. He would not average 22 rebounds a game. He would not average. He would never have a 50 point game season. Never that. Defenses are a lot better. Team defenses are a lot better. There are different rules. Some people try to say, well, if Shaq was back in the day, he couldn't bowl people over. But you gotta understand, back in the day too, the defender couldn't put both of his hands in your back. He couldn't even put his hand in your back. If you watch some tape of Wilt Chamberlain, Wilt Chamberlain would turn his back to the defender, move this way, move this way. The defender wouldn't be close to him. It'd be about this much space between the two, because they called a lot of fouls back in those days. And he would get easy just dump over finger rolls. He wouldn't be able to do all that today. It wouldn't work. But he was still, he ended up in his career averaging 30 points a game. He should have averaged like 35 for his career, but because when he went to the Lakers, he stopped focusing on scoring, his average went down to 30. So to me, if Wilt Chamberlain played all out and he played his regular game from, like, say, the 90s on, 15 years, I think he would still finish averaging 30 points a game. But he would never have those seasons where he averaged 40, 50 points a game. I think he would probably average like 15 rebounds, like that. He would probably still be the most dominant center, statistically speaking. So I still think Wilt Chamberlain would dominate in this time. But I do think he has some faults when it came to playing big and big games. I think I don't know if he would be a champion. I don't know, But I think he would still be, basically he'd be a Shaq with a better rebound and blocking Shaq. So I think he would still get the point. So that's what I say about Wilt. I would have to say physically the most gifted center to play the game. He was physically the most gifted. Even if you take him from then and put him now, he would still be physically more gifted. He would be, it's like Dwight Howard, but he's taller than Dwight Howard. Same, and I think he's stronger than Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard cut, but he's strong, but I don't think he's very strong. I don't think he's Shaq strong or Chamberlain strong, but he's cut up. But he could jump out the gym. I think he could jump higher than Wilt. I think he jumps higher than Wilt. But you hear all type of stuff about Wilt. Most of it, half of it I believe, half of it I don't believe. Because when you watch his end game tape, you see that he could jump, but you don't see that he could jump like as high as like a Dwight Howard. But he's somewhere between Shaq and Dwight Howard's jumping ability. So I would still put him as the #1 most gifted center. So I believe the greatest center of all time was Kareem, because of his clutch ability, winning championships. He could do everything, and he'd be with that unblockable shot, and he did it for 20 years. I get Kareem #1. I have to say Wilt #2. I would say Russell #3 because of the championship, but I would take Shaq over Russell. And then you got Olajuwon and Russell all right there. Peace.